Good morning, friends. Over the last couple weeks since we've begun math, we've been discussing place value up through the millions period. We've been expanding our understanding of how our place value system gives digits a certain value. Specifically over the last week, we've begun to expand our understanding into the decimal places. And we're going to use what we've been talking about to expand our thinking even further. Our objectives with this video are to use our understanding of place value to actually create decimal numbers, and then use our understanding of our place value system to be able to compare those decimal numbers. Before we really get into our new content, I want you to take a minute and just explain to me in your own words what you believe the difference is between the digits to the left of the decimal point, and that's with the red arrow pointing to the left, and explain the difference, what the digits mean to the right of the decimal point. Just take a second. Edpuzzle is going to pause and give you a chance to write a written response. All right, math friends, hopefully you took a second to explain the difference between the digits to the left of the decimal point and to the right of the decimal point. Just a quick refresher. The digits to the left of the decimal point, the direction of the red arrow, we've talked about the fact that those represent whole numbers. In this case, I have 3 whole ones. If my number went into higher place value, I would be in the tens, the hundreds, the thousands. We learned that the digits to the right of the decimal point, where that orange arrow is, they represent parts of a whole. We've talked so far about the tenths place, the hundredths place, and the thousandths place. We're going to focus today, moving forward, on being able to use our understanding of place value to compare numbers that have digits in the decimal places. So one of the things I want you guys to think about right off the bat is understanding which place value columns are worth more. So we used to say things like, well, I know a number is larger because it has more digits. When we're talking about decimals, I want to point out the fact that that's not true anymore. So let's start real quick by looking at the number with the most digits here. So you can see I've got 9 thousandths. So I might look at that and say that that number has more value than, say, 9 tenths or even 9 hundredths. 9 thousandths even sounds bigger to me than 9 hundredths or 9 tenths. But what I want you guys to think about is, what does a 9 in the thousandths place actually represent? So I wrote the equivalent fractions below. 9 thousandths, 0.009, is the same as 9 out of 1,000. Let's go to something we know, Halloween candy. If I have 1,000 total pieces of candy available, but I only have 9 of those thousands, to me that doesn't seem like very much. When I jump one number over here, friends, and I look at 9 hundredths, let's look at the way that sounds. Well, I have 100 total pieces of candy, and I have 9 out of those 100, as compared to 9 out of those 1,000. This seems like a better number for me. I'd rather have 9 out of 100 instead of only 9 out of 1,000 total pieces. Now let's look one more digit over here, friends. I've got 9 tenths. So I'm looking at 9 tenths. Now I realize it's only one digit, and I might say that a number with smaller digits is less digits is a smaller number. But if I look at the equivalent fraction and I say, well, I've got 9 out of 10 total pieces of candy, to me, that's what I want. I want 9 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 1,000. So we can no longer say that just because there are more digits in a number that it is a larger number. We actually have to think specifically in terms of value. So friends, about a week or so ago, we reviewed how to compare whole numbers. We're going to use that same strategy that we used before to actually compare decimal numbers. So the rules that we gave ourselves were to line up our ones places and then compare by looking at the largest place value column and comparing down to the smaller place value columns. Well, in this case, when we're comparing decimals, we do the exact same thing, but in this case, we want to think about lining up our decimal points. Now, when you line up your decimal points, you also then line up your ones places, and you also make sure that you line up your tenths and so on. But we want to line up our decimal points and we want to go to the largest place value column and then begin to compare. So if I go to my largest place value column and I am looking in my ones places, I see that I have 3 ones in my top number of 3 6/10, and I have 3 ones in my bottom number of 3 8/10. So that doesn't help me yet compare the two numbers. So I need to move right, and I need to go to the smaller place value columns and then compare. So I can immediately see that 6 is smaller than 8. So what that tells me is 3/6 is less than 3/8. If you're not sure and you're asking yourself, well, why? Think about that question again. I have 3 whole ones in both numbers. That's the same. But if I look at 6/10 versus 8/10, do I want 6 out of 10 pieces of candy or do I want 8 out of 10 pieces of candy? Well, me personally, I want 8 out of 10. So 3/8 is the larger of the two numbers. I want you to take a second and in your math journal, jot down the process that I just talked about for comparing decimals. I'm then going to give you a couple of examples in which you need to compare the decimal numbers and you'll be asked to stop and input your answers. So go ahead, take a second, the video is going, pause the video and go ahead and take these notes. All right, friends, in your journals, you are going to complete the following 3 examples. I want you to actually complete them in your journal so when we come back together as a group, we have some work that we can look at. In a second, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and complete the work. Then when you're finished, Edpuzzle will prompt you to input your answers before you finish the video. So go ahead, pause the video now, complete your work, and upload it into Edpuzzle. Thanks. Good luck.